This conversation with our role model of today, Karla Mans Giroux, is all about you being a cancer survivor, Karla, your healing journey, your purpose that resulted out of your journey of being a survivor and a thriver, of helping others through your resilience, your holistic care and empowerment. We're going to learn about the Radical Remission Project, the 10 steps to healing. You are the co-director of the Radical Remission Project with Dr. Kelly Turner. You're the co-founder of Health Navigators, a coaching platform for healing. You're a holistic cancer health coach, educator, and speaker. You're a survivor and thriver of metastatic breast cancer with 7 years of no evidence of disease. You were first diagnosed in 2013. You had a mastectomy, chemo, and radiation. In 2014, you faced metastatic recurrence, and you committed to an integrative approach that you will tell us more about. Karla, welcome to WeCan. Tell us a little bit what it feels like when you face a potentially life-threatening diagnosis.
Well, that is a very scary situation. With each cancer diagnosis, it was terrifying because when we hear those words, you have cancer, most of us equate that with death, which
Hmm.
is unfortunate, but in some cases, true. The early stage diagnosis I received in 2003 was when I was 37 years old and I had a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. And it was devastating to think that I was going to have to go through this challenge. Certainly scared that I might not get through the challenge, but ultimately took a conventional approach, did did well for the most part. It wasn't always easy, but I was young and healthy and was able to get through it. I had strong reasons for living, those two little boys, my husband, a career. So I did what I had to do and I kept moving forward. The second diagnosis actually came in 2014. So it was 11 years later when I received the metastatic diagnosis. That was a complete and total surprise because I thought at 10 years, after being cancer free for that long, that I had made it, that I had succeeded, that I wouldn't have to worry about it again, that it was over and done. And I really had put it far back in my mind. So when symptoms arose that were odd, um, I didn't even think about cancer. My leg started to go numb, and my leg would fall out from underneath me as if I had a pinched nerve. So my chiropractor worked on me as if I had a pinched nerve. But after a few months of no change, he recommended that I go see a orthopedic doctor who could take an x-ray and see what might be going on with my leg. And that orthopedic doctor took x-rays and looked at it, and there's nothing wrong with my leg, but I'm still falling down and the numbness is still there. So that doctor recommended me to a neurologist who first did a very excruciating nerve test, only to find out my nerves were fine. So then decided to do an MRI. And still, no thought of cancer, just unsure of what was going on and why my leg was doing this, but never occurred to me that it could be cancer coming back. I suppose that's a little bit of a blessing. Otherwise, it would have been even more terrifying as it took a few months to get through all of that. But the MRI showed suspicious spots all up and down my spine, throughout my bones. And even though the neurologist wasn't going to call me until the following week, he called me on Friday afternoon to tell me this horrifying news and said that he'd already called my primary care doctor. I should call her office and talk to her immediately. So that is obviously when it hit me that this was the return of cancer. As he said, based on your history, suspicious
Mm.
spots, it all came flooding in and it was
Mm.
terrifying. Then when
Mm.
I called my primary care doc, she said, I'm here in the office. Get your husband and come see me. Well, that's just another reason to be terrified because it must be horrible
Yeah.
news, right?
Yeah.
So that was a really rough weekend to live through. And my children were teen, preteen at that time, and lived that weekend fearing death. Like, this is it. It has metastasized. It's gone elsewhere. Now, how long will it take before it takes over and I'm gone? So absolutely terrifying beyond words. Those of us that get those diagnoses know just how scary it is, the fear that comes up, the regret, the you know, terror, the sadness, all of it comes flooding in.
Carla, and so tell us a little bit on from there. What happened after that? How did you find Dr. Turner? Did you find her
Mhm,
beforehand?
mhm.
How did you become part of the Radical Remission Project? And then we're going to talk about the things that you did to start your
Yeah,
healing process. That was an integrative approach.
correct. Yes. So really, the conventional oncologist that I had seen for the initial breast cancer diagnosis, um, God bless him, he told me this is a chronic disease that can be managed. So that gave me a lot of hope, a lot of peace. And so I decided I was going to manage the hell out of it. I was not going to leave any stone unturned. I was going to do absolutely everything in my power to change my story, to make sure that I really did only have a chronic disease, not a terminal disease.
Mm.
So I started on conventional meds, and I also immediately started on lifestyle change. So this was late 2014. Dr. Turner's Radical Remission book came out in 2014. I didn't find it immediately. I found it at some point along the journey. But I did go back to my therapist, who happened to know of a woman who was a cancer coach. I had no idea that such a job existed. So I connected with this woman who became my cancer coach. She happened to be a nurse who also worked at a cancer treatment center and had a master's in divinity. So a very interesting combination,
Mm.
and really well equipped to help me look at this from a mind, body, and spirit perspective, which of course is what I wanted to do. Again, that first diagnosis, I just followed conventional care, didn't know any better, and didn't have any idea I should do more or could do more. This time, I knew I wanted to do more, that I needed to do more. And this cancer coach was able to help me do that. So I really did get cancer arrested pretty quickly. It was December when I started the meds and all the lifestyle changes. By my 3-month follow up scan, the first scan after being diagnosed, cancer was stable. It was not growing. So I knew that was good news. But I also knew, because my symptoms were lessening, the numbness in my leg wasn't as bad and I wasn't falling down anymore. So what
Mm.
had actually been going on was that cancer was growing in such a way in my bones that it was closing off a nerve pathway. So it was pinching a nerve,
Mm.
but it just didn't look like it in my leg because it was happening in my spine. So cancer was receding enough to ease up on the pinch, on the numbness and falling down, which let me know that I was on the right path.
Mm.
So I proceeded. I kept going. I kept following lifestyle changes. And I did find Dr. Kelly Turner's book at some point that year. And when I looked at it, I looked at the table of contents. And in that first book, she had 9 healing factors. And I was able to really say, check, check, check. I've done, several of these. This is so affirming to know that I am on the right path. And then there were a few that I hadn't really thought of, or, hadn't figured out yet. So it was really, exciting to see there's more that I can do. And along the way, also sort of butting heads with my conventional oncologist, who just wanted me to take the drugs and not waste my money or my time on all this other stuff I was talking about. He was not on board with the need for a nutrition change or herbs and supplements or any of this other, you know, woo woo stuff. He would send me packing over to the integrative department. which happened to be in a different building 2 blocks away from the hospital. So obviously not very integrated. But talking to those folks, I did get some support with nutrition, herbs and supplements, massage, yoga, acupuncture, that kind of thing. Eventually, I did have a liver tumor that came up. The cancer initially went to bone, so all over spine, pelvis, ribs, clavicle. Basically, my torso was just covered in cancer across my bones, but only some suspicious spots on the lungs that never amounted to anything. But a year and a half into this journey, a liver tumor came up. And at that time, I decided to switch my care to an integrative oncologist. So I found a partner in the nutrition, the herbs and supplements, the mind, body, spirit approach. And in 6 months, that liver tumor was fully resolved, and I have been no evidence of disease ever since. And that's actually, I'm coming up on my 9-year anniversary of no evidence of disease. It started out as stable. Yes, high five. Thank you very much. I'm so blessed, pleased, proud, excited to be able to say that. And I intend to keep that streak going for as long as I can. So, all that healing journey stuff going on, really spending time digging into lifestyle change, to the factors that Dr. Turner's research lays out in her book. And this is research about 1,500 plus people who overcame a dire prognosis. So once you get a stage 4 diagnosis, or you have a dire glioblastoma or pancreatic diagnosis, you're given often a less than 25% chance of 5 year survival. Those are the people that Dr. Turner really wanted to find out. How'd you come back from that? Right? That the conventional medical world thinks those people are terminal, they'll die, there's nothing more that can be done after all of the chemotherapy, radiation, and things are exhausted. And many of those people that Dr. Turner interviewed and researched had been sent home on hospice care. And then there were many of them that had taken a completely alternative approach. Talk about being brave. To take that completely alternative approach to not ever do conventional medicine is something I've not had the guts to do just yet. But some of us need to get ahead of the cancer, and we need that conventional approach, and we need to add on these healing lifestyle changes. So for me, I was on the right path. I was doing what I needed to do personally, but I took a lot of comfort and affirmation, and it was just so great to have this sort of blueprint from Dr. Turner's research. And I was still working a very high level corporate job, international travel, very busy, burning the candle at both ends, raising kids, trying to stay on my healing path. But the blessing came in a company decision to move from the Chicago area to the Boston area in the United States. I didn't want to move to Boston. And so I received a severance package, but I also got like a 1 year notice on this. So I had taken the Radical Remission workshop from Dr. Turner herself at a retreat center in 2018. It was one of the last ones that she did in for herself. She had children, I think a new baby and then a pregnancy. And so she was going to stop doing these. But I got to do that with her and learn more about these factors and create my action plan for how I was going to implement these factors. At that workshop, I learned about becoming a Radical Remission certified teacher and coach. Immediately knew that's what I wanted to do. And the training was going to happen the next year, 2019. And that was the year I was being severed from my corporate job. So everything was falling into place. And I took that training. And before taking it, actually had to do training to become a coach, right? So I went through Wisdom of the Whole coach training, became a nationally board certified health and wellness coach, then got my Radical Remission certification, and started teaching other people about how to use these healing lifestyle factors to overcome a diagnosis.
Carla, it sounds amazing, and it sounds as if it was all meant to happen exactly like this. And
It was.
isn't that nice when we can look back and say, this all happened for me to be exactly where I am today? Tell us a
Yeah.
bit more about that integrative approach, which I think is a really neat middle of the road approach, because it doesn't mean that you're telling science and medicine that those things don't work. And you're doing both. Tell us
Right.
about the 10 steps in the Radical Remission book that you applied to
Mhm.
your healing journey, and anything else that you might have applied.
Yeah, absolutely. So those 10 healing factors, first were 9 in the first book, and then
Mm.
in 2020, Dr. Turner wrote Radical Hope and revealed that exercise, excuse me, exercise and movement was the 10th factor.
Yeah.
She looked at that, went back to her research, went back to the interviews because exercise was so strongly in the evidence, right? It was evidence based that people that did physical activity really could prevent cancer, overcome cancer, get through their treatment better, et cetera, et cetera. So what she found was people were moving their bodies as much as they could when they could. But because they'd been sent home on hospice care to die, they weren't strong enough to exercise in the traditional sense of the word. They couldn't go to the gym and run marathons and all of that. So that starts us on the physical category. There's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual factors. So we need to remember that focusing only on the physical isn't going to be everything we need to do, right? We need to really take that broad approach for the mind, body, spirit. So nutrition and herbs and supplements also fall into the physical category. In the spiritual category is deepening your spirituality and uh, intuition. And then in the mental is strong reasons for living, empowerment, being empowered in your health to become the CEO of your health, and also finding social support. And then the emotional factors are releasing suppressed emotions and increasing positive emotions.
Mm. Carla, so tell us how you put that into practice. It sounds amazing. We all know in this day and age, 2025, that whatever illness we have, it's not just a physical root. It could be that it has roots in all the different bodies, right? In our emotional body,
Right.
in our mental body, in our intuitive body. And I think a lot of people have understood that now. How did you put that into practice? What did that mean for you?
Yeah, you're right. More people know now than they did back in 2020 when I started teaching even. And for me, that cancer coach really helped me to start looking at first the physical, but also the spiritual. She had that
Mm,
master's in divinity, so that was really
yeah.
interesting. And I had always been a spiritual seeker, so I knew I needed to deepen that connection. One of the biggest things for me was working with my therapist, learning to love myself, to be
Mm,
enough, right? Instead of striving and seeking validation outside myself, I needed to realize that I was enough just the way I was. I didn't need the gold star. I didn't need the award. I didn't need the accolades and the, way to go at work kind of stuff.
the
That's
recognition.
nice.
Mm,
Exactly, exactly. And I had always been seeking that outside myself. So that
mm,
was one of my big lessons. How do I love me? I like to say when I'm dripping wet straight out of the shower, right?
yeah.
No makeup, no jewelry, no dressed for success, just me. And that is how I learned to really let go of that striving and seeking validation elsewhere. And the other factors really, you can't do them all at once. We all approach the factors from a different perspective. Some people really do start with the physical because they know and they can do that. And that's the first thing they think about is what I'm putting in my body, how I'm moving my body. But eventually you've got to move on and find some other things to really approach the spiritual, mental, and emotional. And doing small changes over time adds up to a big difference. So it's really about figuring out what you need to do. What do you personally need to change in your life that's going to help you move forward towards healing? And we do need to look at what might have been the contributing causes of cancer, because we need to change the environment in and around us in order to be inhospitable to cancer, right? We
Mm.
want cancer to go away, so let's change the environment that allowed cancer to grow in the first place.
So, Carla, if someone is listening and might have had a diagnosis recently and thinks, is this exactly, this resonates, health navigators, how do you start working with people? What is the process like? What lifestyle changes do you encourage them to make?
Yes, my Health Navigators is my private coaching practice. I
Yes.
have a co-founder, and people can reach out to me there for one-on-one coaching. So, as a certified radical remission coach, I take people through the 10 healing factors, but I can also go beyond that. One of the things that typically I like to work on with people is mindset, their beliefs, their
Mm.
limiting beliefs. Let's look at what's going on there and how can we change that. But also how can we start to take action? And it's really about helping people uncover what's right for them. What I did got me to no evidence of disease, but those things I did are not necessarily what someone else needs to do. But as a coach, I'm helping people to figure that out, to uncover what are the things they need to do in their life, what needs to change, how can they start taking action to see some difference. And I really like to point people in the direction of health and healing, to put disease, diagnosis, cancer behind them. Let's focus on health and healing because what we focus on is what we get more of.
Mm.
So, working with people, I love to help them really look at their mindset and then look at what actions they can take to start to move that needle and push them closer to health and healing.
Carla, if you look back, those 6 months where you were able to reverse a liver tumor,
Mhm.
what do you feel are your main learnings? What do you feel contributed most to being able to heal that so fast?
I think it was really a combination of my efforts from an integrative approach, my lifestyle changes, along with the partnership of an integrative oncologist.
Mm.
To have somebody validate that nutrition, herbs and supplements, mind, body, and spirit practices matter and make a difference was huge for me. So big. And the meds helped too. We changed the conventional med profile that I was on, the things I was taking adjusted. But I really believe it was the belief that this new oncologist had and the partnership that they were able to provide to me and my desire to keep learning more. What more could I do? How could I deepen these lifestyle changes that I had been making? Because it's never one and done. It's never, okay, change my diet, done, moving on. We need to ebb and flow with it, right? Things are going to change, and we need to try what seems to be the right thing for us. And if things improve, great. But if they don't, we can change. We can try something different. So constantly looking at that, not to be so focused on a diagnosis that we stay stuck back there in illness, sickness, disease, cancer, but what can I continue to do for my health and healing?
Carla, so what do you do now to be aligned, to hold the space for other people who might go through what you've gone through?
Hmm. I live my life by these healing factors. I have set up my private coaching practice to work with the way I want to live, right? 4 days a week. I don't do mornings because I'm not a morning person. So afternoons and evenings, I get to choose my schedule. And I stay aligned to these healing practices because I know that's what got me where I am. And that's when it's going to keep me going. And I have a goal to live to be 101, healthy and sane. So these factors are a lifestyle. This is not something I'm doing for a little while and then I'll go
Mm.
back to the way it used to be. I don't want to go back to the way I used to be. I want to continue to learn more, to develop myself more, to grow and change and really be there for people. And I am able to hold space for people to really share with them lots of resources and information and the research that's going to help them, to believe in them, and to really, really support them in their journey to health and healing. And I feel like I just have a charmed life. It's beautiful. I love being able to help people to be where I am. This is my purpose. I know that now. Whereas years ago, I struggled to, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I meant to do? I've learned a lot about that over the course of my healing journey.
Carla, and what do you feel matters most to you now, and how do you want to matter going forward? You obviously are living your purpose. You've learned so much. You stepped fully into yourself. You're living the best version of yourself. If you had to sum it up very shortly, what would you like your legacy to be?
Oh my goodness. Um, I want to be remembered for helping people, for loving people, for providing people with hope. And, my life has always been quite lovely, but this phase of the work that I'm doing and the meaning, it's all about love and helping others.
And Carla, do you feel that you are able to do that because part of your healing journey was learning to love yourself?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you had to thank someone or something that you're most grateful for, what would that be?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'd have to thank Dr. Kelly Turner for doing the research, for
Mm.
writing the book, for putting that out in the world to help so many of us overcome a dire prognosis. Certainly, I'm going to thank God for the blessings in my life, thank my family for the support, and the integrative oncology world, right? For, providing the best of both worlds, right? To believe that there are other modalities that can help us heal.
What would you say keeps you up at night still? What are the
Oh,
sort of challenges you still face that you need to reframe?
there aren't too many things that keep me up at night. Again, I feel like I live a bit of a charmed life. Um, the things that keep me up are, you know, can I help more people? How can I do more? I have a really balanced life from a how much time I spend helping others. I have this ability to not give too much of myself away
Mm.
and to not take on too much of what other people have going on, but to hold the space for them to share what's going on with them and to release and let go of some of that. But there's not a lot that keeps me up at night. There really
Mhm.
isn't.
That's good to hear.
Mm.
Carla, what are your deal breakers? What are the hard no's for you?
Ah, that's a tough question for me. What are my deal breakers? I um I don't do early mornings.
Mm.
I um I don't want to overextend myself and do things that don't feel authentic to me. I want to stay rooted in what I believe and what I know is going to be most helpful for me.
Mm.
And that is living a life of um, empowered, loving kindness.
Beautiful. Carla, what are your plans and your goals? What do you have planned for sort of the end of this year, next year, the next years?
The plan and the goal is to continue to grow the Health Navigators private coaching practice to help more people, but also to give the value, to be of more value to people, but also to grow the Radical Remission Project. So, as a co director, my partner Liz Curran and I are really trying to help Dr. Turner keep the Radical Remission brand out there, get more people aware of it and educated about it, and actually try to get more research done. There was a Harvard pilot study done. We'd love to see another study happen to take it to the next phase of clinical trials. Big
It's all,
stuff.
yeah, it's big stuff and it's important stuff. It's a lot of stuff that's being cut down right now, which is not serving anyone.
Yeah,
And
right.
what takeaways do you want our listeners to have from your story, Karla?
Well, I would love people to believe that cancer does not equal a death sentence
Mm.
and that they can overcome it, that um, healing doesn't always mean cure, and cure doesn't always mean healing. And I think healing is the most important thing, but certainly a bonus if we can achieve both. But to believe and to have hope that in spite of a diagnosis, life goes on and healing can be found.
Karla, I'm so grateful for you taking the time to tell your story, to share your insights. Everyone who's listening, if this is something you are facing right now in your life, please get in touch with Karla Mans Giroux at the Sales Navigators. You can find her online. Buy the book Radical Remission. It's really an incredible book. I have read it. I've given it to a friend whose son was diagnosed with leukemia half a year ago, and it has so much unbelievable insight in there. And it also made me remember that miracles are possible and that every one of us is here to find healing, whether that's through a cancer diagnosis or through any issues that we face, and that you're never alone because there are people like you, there are people like your integrative oncologists that are all over the world. There are people like Dr. Turner who spend their life supporting other people and walking them home, right? And this is a possibility. We have a village, we have to look for it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephanie.